Alright everyone, welcome to this video. So we'll quickly be looking at some of the reasons why you shouldn't be using height and width in your HTML elements. So right here we have our parent element and then we have a child. Nice. So in our CSS, we have a background color on our parent element and then some padding. Now, I also added the height here, but I really would advise against that. And I'm going to tell you why in a moment. Now, notice originally our CSS is responsive even on smaller screens. But then what most people do is they come in here and they add a width of, let's say, 900 pixels. Or when you increase it, it looks good. And then they try to center it. Here it is. Okay, now that looks good on your larger screen sizes, but the moment you begin to go to your smaller screen sizes, maybe a mobile phone, then you have a side scroll bar here, and you really wouldn't want that. So what you should do instead is to add width in percentages. So we can say 90% here, and then now this looks responsive even on our smaller devices. So instead of adding your width in pixels, you should add your width in percentages. Now the percentage is of whichever parent element it is that you are dealing with. So for instance, here we have our div of parent. The parent element here is the body. So our box here is 90% of our body element. And the same goes with our child element. Now, at this moment, the child element is 100% of our parent elements. Why? Because we haven't really added any styling here. So instead of setting your width in pixels, which automatically removes the responsiveness in smaller screen sizes, you should add your width in percentages. So that way you're going to have a responsive layout even on smaller devices and on larger screen sizes. Now next we are going to look at why you really shouldn't add a height to your elements. Now my rule is if you really need to add a height, just don't add a height because it's going to because it has a tendency of messing with your elements. Now let's say for instance let's add some um, content here. Let's say that straight up gives us a reason why we shouldn't add a height, because you don't want your content to overflow when you are on smaller screen sizes. Now notice this is happening. Um let's reduce this content here. Let's say 100. Now let's add our heights. Say so much. Okay, so we have a height of 200 pixel, which is automatically able to carry all of our elements on your larger screen size. That looks good. But the moment you begin to reduce this, and let's get it smaller, now your text begins to overflow. You really don't want to have your text overflowing. So what you should do is, now when you take out this height, your element becomes responsive. So if you really need to add a height, well, maybe you shouldn't add a height to your element, because what it does is it takes away the responsiveness on smaller screen sizes. And of course, you can always solve that with adding media queries, but CSS doesn't have to be hard. So it is always good to have a responsive layout from the onset so you wouldn't have a lot of problems to work with in the long run.